Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3TR. I have another requested top list video to share with you guys today. This time I will be going over my top 5 favorite Devil May Cry bosses of all time. Now before I begin, I would just like to give a cool shout out to Mr. Infernal Warrior 909 because this was his idea. So heck, if you see his comment in the comment section, be sure to give him a thumbs up and a comment for giving me this awesome idea. So without wasting any more time, let's jump right into the first boss on my list, starting off with number 5.
Number 5 on my list comes from Devil May Cry 2, and I'm not even sure if I'm saying this name right, so if I'm getting it wrong, please give me a break. But it just so happens to be Festrias. Now, Festrias is without question the most visually disturbing and impressive looking boss on my list. The fact that it is mainly just a demon that seems to either be made out of the building itself or is just using the building to try and cross over to our plane certainly makes it stand apart from any other boss on this list. Gameplay wise, I would say that even if you know exactly how to fight him, he really can be one of the more challenging boss fights in the entire game. And even more interesting is that after you've defeated him in his first form, the head comes off with the top section of the spinal cord still attached, and it even has its own set of special attacks in that form, which tells you that this thing is really determined to take you down. And I always admire an opponent that has determination, which is why I think he's worthy of the number 5 spot on my list. Number 4 on my list is the complete opposite of a hot dog, and that is the ice 3-headed dog Cerberus, which is only the second boss in the entire game. What I really like the most about this version of Cerberus is that the developers took a creature that is pretty familiar to Greek mythology, but changed him up and gave him more of an ice makeover to make him stand out. The fact that this dog also can talk is pretty impressive too, because as Dante said, he would probably win first prize in a dog show. As a boss, I think that having 3 heads that are switching that each have their own unique attack patterns does make it somewhat difficult for those who haven't fought this thing before. But once you've defeated him, you are gifted with one of my all-time favorite Devil May Cry weapons, that being a unique pair of nunchucks, also called Cerberus, which in my opinion makes it one of the more probably flashiest weapons in the entire franchise. But it's for these reasons that I think Cerberus is well deserving of the number 4 spot on this list. Number 3 on my list takes us out of the ice and into the fire with Beowulf from Devil May Cry 4. Now, Beowulf not only happens to be my favorite boss fight in the entire game, but he is the only boss that I actually enjoy fighting with him with Nero than I do with Dante. His overall design is simply badass, as he could be classified as a demonic centaur with an enormous sword and the power of hellfire, who, like Cerberus, has his own unique personality and has no shame in exchanging words before he, well, tries to kill you. Gameplay wise, he really can be pretty tough as an opponent if you try to go on the total offense as I have done with Dante, but as Nero, there is nothing I enjoy seeing more than Nero grabbing Beowulf by the head and slamming him into the ground hard, which I can openly admit is probably one of my favorite animations in the entire franchise. It is my belief that Beowulf serves as a perfect example of the sheer amount of potential Capcom has in its development team when it comes to designing their future boss fights, which gives me a lot of hope for what's in store for us in Devil May Cry 5. Number 2 on our list takes us right back to Devil May Cry 3 with Beowulf the Light Beast. Now, Beowulf has a personal vendetta against the entire Sparta bloodline due to the fact that 2,000 years ago, he was blinded in one eye and was sealed away by Sparta himself. So when we first meet him, I think it's a bit of an understatement to say that he has some pimped up anger towards Dante. And that really shows in his combative approach, because Beowulf is not only one of the harder boss fights in the entire game, but he is by far the most aggressive boss. He has a large variety of attacks, and the fact that he can use the environment itself to his advantage makes him even more dangerous. Visually, he seems to have a mixture of demonic and holy powers, and hence his surname, the Light Beast. He has a scorpion tail and 4 bird wings which grant him flight, and when you take out his remaining eye and force him to flee, you are treated to a really cool looking cutscene where Virgil finishes him off with a single move, thereby gaining possession of one of the devil arms with the same name. And just like Cerberus, it is another one of my all-time favorite devil arm weapons in the entire franchise. But as cool as Beowulf is, there's only one boss that holds the #1 spot, and for those of you that know me pretty well, it really shouldn't be all that surprising who it is. My #1 favorite Devil May Cry boss of all time is Nilo Angelo, which, to surprise some of you, I've only ever defeated him once, way back during my PlayStation 2 time when I was a teenager, because ever since then I have failed to reach him every single time because I can openly admit that the first Devil May Cry game is just way too difficult and just not worth the stress. But the fact that it's been so many years since I've actually taken him on, and yet I would still rank him as #1 really says something. For those of you who do not know, Nilo Angelo is the corrupted version of Virgil after the events of Devil May Cry 3, and even while being corrupted, you can still see bits of Virgil's original personality still shine through. His overall design as a demonic Dark Knight covered in armor gives him a look somewhat similar to Sparta's demonic form, and it's even cooler when you get a chance to see what Nilo Angelo looks like without his helmet. And gameplay wise, the final fight that you have of him remains to this day to be the single hardest boss fight that I've ever experienced in this franchise. I wouldn't even classify the final bosses of any of these games to be anywhere near the level of difficulty that I had with that one. Being the corrupted version of my all-time favorite Devil May Cry character grants him an immense level of importance to the franchise, with rumors and theories being spread around the internet that we could see him return in one fashion or another, which, if that happens to be true and we are granted the ability to fight him once again in Devil May Cry 5, I would be jumping up and down with excitement, and that is why Nilo Angelo will always remain to be my favorite Devil May Cry boss of all time.
And that'll do it for my top 5 favorite Devil May Cry bosses of all time. I'm sure some of you might be a little bit shocked that certain characters aren't on this list, but heck, it's my list and I'm gonna do things my way. So, with that out of the way, I'm curious to know, what are your top 5 favorite Devil May Cry bosses of all time? Please share your list with me and everyone else in the comments down below. And since I want to try to do a top list gaming top video just about every other week, if you happen to have an idea that you think would make for a really cool top list video, please do not hesitate to share your idea in the comments down below, and I will be sure to give you a shout out when I get that video up, because I think by doing more of these every week, I think I can draw on more people and increase our subscriber level. So, with that said, I'd like to thank all of you guys for watching. Please feel free to press one of the links in the description down below to follow me on Twitter and friend me on Facebook to keep track of my future videos. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.